Welcome everybody to week 8, CSC 209 week 8. Today we are going to continue with the second part of ASP.NET, client sign always, web forms validation. This is the second part for your assignment 2 as well. I want to say that I have not received any emails from anybody with regards to the selection of the topic for assignment 2. Why is that? Negocio?
You told us to keep the same subject as the first assignment.
Bravo. You gave it Twizzler, Negocio. Let them think. Bravo, Elena. So some people had no idea I said that. I could see you are panicking. You are checking your emails. Oh, I'm going to send it now. I should have made it more dramatic, though. I should have said the deadline has passed and you lost a lot of points. Anyway, thank you, Coach. Of course I said that. So the same topic for the assignment 1 has to be used for assignment 2. So I did not receive any emails, and that's good. Don't send me any. You must use the same topic. Only the people that received a comment, I think it was 2 or 3, that the topic needs revising. You said other things and then you delivered different things. Those, yes, you get to pick which one of the 2 I have suggested. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then it doesn't count for you. Now, ASP.NET Web Forms Validation. I want to point out that we have one more lecture before the Easter holidays. That's next week. And we're going to see this part. So after that one, you will be ready to tackle assignment 2. Now, next week, it's going to be an in-class lecture. So I will be expecting to see all of you at EUC at 3 o'clock. Okay, so next week is the 14th. It's week 9, the 14th of April. We're going to have this lecture at EUC. And it's not going to be recorded, and I'm not going to be joining at Blackboard Collaborate. So do not miss it. There are no excuses. You know that from the start of the semester. Please plan accordingly. Let's go on. Let's start a new Visual Studio project. And let's design the form in order to see the new controls that I have to show you today. So go on with the .NET framework. Make sure everybody, we had some cases last week. C# here, please. Next, see if you get to Visual Basic, you will also see this option. So switch it to C# so that you have the filter all the time there. All platforms, and then is web development, and then the first one you get, that's the selection. The title, ASP.NET validation controls. Create the project. Let me see the submission link. Is it ready? All right, it is now visible. As we are waiting for, okay, click empty here, click create. As we are waiting for the project to be created, I have a movie recommendation for everybody today. The movie is the Stanford Experiment movie. Stanford Prison Experiment. It's a movie, not the documentary or any series, it's the movie. It's a 2015 movie, and it's based on an actual case that happened in 1971, where a professor split his students into 2 groups. Half of them, they were assigned to be guards, and the other half were assigned to be the prisoners. He turned the lecture rooms into cells, and he gave the guards a program. So the prisoners must wake up, they must go and eat breakfast, they must do this, they must do that, end of the day. And he just sat and watched what happened. What do you think happens when you give somebody the privilege of power? I'm not going to spoil it for you, but the character of a person, it's always shown when that person gets power. It's not when they get money, it's when they get power. Remember that. But that one is expected. I mean, if you watch the trailer, it's expected. You can actually see it from the from the templates. But there is something that is more shocking, that the guards becoming more embedded into their role than needed. I'm not going to reveal what it is. If you're interested, watch it. It actually changed the laws, the rules in sociology. It's human nature. Not just the part where guards become powerful, but something about the prisoners as well. And it's something that we're living in the society, in our society as well. Actually, this is the movie recommendation for today. Also, I want to point out that my prediction for the MVP for the NBA, since we're getting close to the end, it's going to be NBA. Anybody watching NBA here? We're getting close to the ending the regular season and moving on to the playoffs. Stephanie is not, I said, not who I want to be the MVP, but who I think it will be the MVP. I think it's going to be Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers. Once we get close to the playoffs and then the playoffs start, I will keep you updated of the news on NBA. Finally, the first leg of the quarterfinals for the Champions League have finished yesterday and the day before. I'm a little bit disappointed with Chelsea. I really expected the three Premier League, the English teams, to move on to the semifinals, because I believe the English Premier League is the most powerful football league in the world. Not the national team, those are losers. The English team are losers, but the English teams, the football clubs, that league, it's the most powerful and more exciting to watch. So I would like to see the three English teams go forward, and of course Bayern Munich. Now, are they going to make it? I don't know, I wish, but I think Liverpool, Manchester City, they have it. Bayern will crush Villarreal. And then we have the Real Madrid. Maybe there will be a way to overcome this very dramatic score. Those were the news of the day. Is your project ready? I tried to fill up the gaps here, so let me know. Do you have a project set up? Very good. I have another movie to recommend next week. So if you watch this one, if you go with my movie recommendations, I will give you more. Right click on the root node of the project. We go to add and we add a new web form. Now I can go new item, or I can find it here. Since I have used it before, it should be appearing in the recently used files. If you don't see it here, just go new item and search it up. It's right there, but if you just search web form, you're going to get the one that we need. Next week, we will be using these ones, master page and web form with master page, those two. So click that, web form 1, let's go with registration. So that is going to be my registration page. Let's have a look at the checklist. You have today, we need to cover 1, 2, 3, 4 validators. And then the validation summary. For the project, for the assignment, I will show you there are some other options for the validators. If you want to add those, you will get bonus marks. And if you apply these validators, actually, I think the only one is this one, the required field. If you apply it for something different than a text field, which I'm going to demonstrate today, you will again receive bonus marks. Now, let's go and do it, and I will explain once we see it. Move on to the design, please. And we want to be inside the body, inside this div area here. Right, so if you place it inside the form, so if you place the mouse there, you move to the design, you will be located there. Let's open up the toolbox. So go View, Toolbox, in case it's not already there, and you can pin it so it stays there, doesn't go. Now, we're not going to use the standard category, not the data. We're going to use the validation. So you can close out all others and just leave the validation category open. Or if you don't see it, just search it up. Say validator, just say valid, and it will show. Today we're going to cover required, range, compare, regular expression, validation summary. So I'm not going to be covering the custom validator. Anybody wants to cover that, you have to search it up. If you use it, you will declare it, and I will give you bonus marks. All right, so follow me. Label. Again, we have to build a small interface. Therefore, I have to use the standard, and then we're going to go to the validators. The text of this label will be name and the columns. And right next, I will leave one space also, so there's a small distance, and then pick up a text box and drag it next to it. Enter, enter. Another label, please. Let's call this age. Find the text box and drag it in. Remember, we are creating, it's a label. The text of the label will be password. We are in the form registration, so I'm creating a small registration form. Text box right next to it. I don't know if anybody tried it. You can just copy those two and paste, 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 so you get them multiple times. Add it, another label, and that is conf password, which is what we do in registrations. And one more text box next to it. Let's go with the label. The text is student ID. And finally, in order to submit the form, I will have a button. And I'm going to increase the size so that it gets up to the maximum width of the confirmed password in this case. I repeat, today I will only demonstrate the validations with text fields, text boxes. Some of them, they're required, and another one, I'm not going to say which one, can be used with different components like radio buttons, checkboxes, drop-down lists, which we have seen last week. So if anybody wants to research it, just Google it, find some tutorials, and apply it in addition to text boxes. I will give you bonus marks. But for the assignment, you have to do the validations with the validators on text boxes. It's compulsory. Also, if you present a registration form the way I'm doing now, you will get points, you're not going to get full points. All right, so you need to incorporate it into your selected scenario. It has to be a form, I know, but it doesn't have to be exactly the same fields, exactly the same labels. After the button, let's change the text to register. Capital letters. And after the button, click enter twice because we need the space for the validation summary, which is coming up next. All right, can I have a confirmation from everybody that you get the form ready? Excellent. This is last week's, and so I went a little bit fast. What's coming up is what we will see. I want you also to, after every text box, leave one empty line as well. I know it doesn't look good now, but it will make sense once we have the validations. So instead of writing them next to the text box, I'm going to have them below. So κάμω και κανένα zoom αν χρειαστεί. Thank you very much, everybody. Now, let's proceed. Go to Validator and pick up the required field validator. Drag and drop it under the label name. Drop it there. You will see this. Automatically, the properties appear on the right-hand side. Now, there are some properties we need to change, and once we run it, you will understand what it does. Να δείξω πρώτα εγώ. I will delete this. Stay there, please. If I run the registration ASPX without any validations, allow me to do it. You don't need to run it. It's what we are expecting. If I click the button, there are no checks. All right, so number one, I can leave them empty. Number two, I can write whatever I want. This is what we are going to do. We're going to restrict the way this form is processed. So, yep, nothing happens. There are no error messages. If I connect this form with actually sending it somewhere, you will see that it will proceed without any warnings. And I can write here something, but age should be a number. I can write characters as well. And click the button, there's no objection whatsoever. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to stop this by adding the validators. So I'm going back again. Require field validator over there. And then let's go to the properties on the left-hand side. The first one I want you to find is the text here. So what do we do when there is an error message? We produce an asterisk and it says you must, capital Y, provide a name. So we're making this compulsory. Number two, error message. If you observed, this is what we had before we added the text. So if I don't have the text and have an error message, then that is shown. If you have the text, then error message is overridden. So the question may be, why do we need it then, sir? Follow me, and then I will explain. Name is required. Once again, you're not going to see it anywhere. That's okay. And if I delete the text, I'm going to cut it and put it back. There. Now the error message is shown. But if you add a text, which I asked you to do, it overrides the error message. So there's a question, what is the need for the error message now? Now, when we have an error message, it's always good to have colors on the message. So we're going to go to for color and we're going to say red. Just write red, click enter, and it will turn to red. All these are fine. By the way, we can change the font, bold, the size, even the font to something else. But it's not the time for this now. The most important property though for this validation is to connect it with the name text box, not the label, the text box. If I click on the text box, I can see it says text box 1. That's the ID. So I go back to the validator, and you want to find control to validate. It's right here. So click on it, expand the list, and you will see all text boxes suggested for you. And as we have seen, is the first one. Now it's connected to that control. It's connected to that text box. All right, time for everybody to check if it works. Right click and view in browser, or if you have it, just refresh and click the button without adding anything in the name. Do you get this error message? You should be. It says unobtrusive validation mode. So if this message now, it means it's correct. We need to add the exception in our project that we want you, ASP.NET, follow the validators that we are adding based on the restrictions we are setting. So in order to do that, we need to go to the web config, which is right there. And we're going to write some code, so follow me. Did you get this? Just click yes. And over here, under configuration, find right here, the end of system web, just before the system code DOM. I can create some space so that you can see. Let's create a new entry. It's the one that says here, add settings, close the opening tag, and therefore it will create a closing tag. And in the middle, add key validation settings, colon, and then unobtrusive, be careful with the spelling, unobtrusive validation mode. Unobtrusive means do not interrupt us. Let us work with the validation settings that we are setting. And then value none. Basically, we're turning off that error. There is an automatic way to do it. I'm not going to show it to you. We need to understand that this is the configuration file of the project, and we're going to come here to add any exceptions that we want. We're changing the way it behaves. This is one. In the future, we will see another one for the login and password when we do a login form. Now we're doing a registration form. So it's app settings, add key, validation settings, capital V, capital S, and catodelia, unobtrusive validation mode, value none, capital N. Let's see if it works. Save it. Run it again. Registration ASPX, viewing browser. And is it working now? Just click the button. You should be getting the error message. You must provide a name. Thank you, everybody. So just to point out that if you actually provide a name, which can be anything, and you click the register, the error message goes away. It means it was successfully submitted. If I remove it and click the button again, I'm getting the error message and the page doesn't move. The form is not submitted. You're not observing that submission effect. Pandelice Marie, write it correctly. Ella, once again, write it correctly, write it up in the right place. Has to be outside of an existing tag. Let's see. Ακόμα ένα λεπτό. Ξανά. You have to do this for the project. You're going to have to do this for the exam. If in the exam I have a practical exercise, I will let you know for the exam, final exam, after the Easter holidays. Probably for the exam, I will give you the lines. I don't need you to remember them. But for the project, you need to remember to apply them. Yeah, be careful of the capital letters, blah blah blah. Let's continue and εντάξει, σήμερα βγάλει forbidden, τι να σου πω, κάτι άλλο, δυστυχώς. You are missing something πάντως. Δεν το προσεκτικά. Προχωρούμε, and during the break, you can, I will leave the screen on so you can see it carefully. Let's go back to registration on ASPX. Let's select the required field validator, please, and go to source. Let's see what we have created here. So it's ASP required field validator. We're getting an ID. The ID is important. Next week. So this validator has an ID. Run at server is important because we talked about that ASP.NET will translate this validation control to whatever the browser can run, can accept. So in HTML5, it will just add a required attribute when generating the HTML input type text. Control to validate, it's the attribute that connects to the control. Again, I'm just doing text boxes. Let's see who can connect it to another form control. Error message name is required, but we don't see that yet. That's the for color, and this is the text. So the text goes between the opening and closing tab of the ASP required field validator. All right, let's go back. Design. H. By the way, I can proceed and add many required validations. Solora. Σε παρακαλώ. I could have copy pasted it as well. There is a reason I have not. Now, if somebody copy pastes, how are they going to learn to write it? Please, thank you very much. So I want them to write it. I want them to, if they make a mistake, to see what the mistake is. It's okay. You know, I can copy paste as well. It's not that I'm bored. There is a reason. Ευχαριστώ. Εντάξει, Μάρια, να το δούμε το διάλειμμα. So let's go and add once again validation. Required field validator, drag and drop it under the H. So we're going to say that this is also compulsory. This is not something new. We have done it for the name. So let's repeat it, please. Of course, now the error message and the text will be different. So let's go first for the error message and say H is required. There you are, you can see it. But once I go into the text and say asterisks, you must provide your age, it overrides it. And because this is a required field, I selected it to be shown in red. I'm going to go to the for color and once again add red. Now, I have it placed here. If I move on to control to validate and just say text box 5, I'm connecting it to this one. So it's not that if you add it under the text box, it will be connected with that. No, you actually have to do it here. So that's text box 2. Let's confirm it. Click on that. Yep, that is ID text box 2. So now it's connected and it's compulsory. Just a very quick confirmation, and stay there. I'm just going to refresh and repeat it myself. So I have none of them. Bam, you get both of them. If you fill up the first one, you get for the second one. If you just write anything you want, it will go away. Now we have a second validation restriction, and that is that it should be adding, the user should also only be adding numbers. So for that, we're going to go and select the range validator. Pick it up, and maybe there is no space here, so I'm just going to create one empty line as well and add it under the existing required field validator. So I'm going to color this in purple, just for the sake of the example, to see the differences in the different categories of validation. So the range validators will be purple. All right, text. Let's do error message first. The error message valid age range is 10. It must be this down, 18 to 99. So yes, we're accepting students up to 99 years old. But once I go to the text and I just say asterisk, you have declared an invalid age. It overrides it. So you see the difference that for the error message, I'm actually telling the user what the acceptable range is. For the error message in the text, I'm just informing this is incorrect. So this error message has to go somewhere in order for the user to see what is the valid range. It's coming up. Control to validate, as always, we go to text box 2, so now it's connected with that. But in order to be able to say we're only accepting numbers in this text field, you have to go further down to type and change string, which is message, into integer. So look at that, you can switch to any data type, and therefore ASP.NET will restrict what input can be added. So basically this will be converted to input type number. And also, since we are saying that 10 to 19 is the minimum and maximum, you have to actually declare those. It's right here. Minimum value, that's 10, and maximum value is 99, including. So now this is a proper number field with an assigned range as the restriction, the rule. Let's check it out. Save it. Don't forget to save it. And right-click, run it again, or just refresh your existing page. Now, I know it's a little bit, it doesn't look very good when you don't get the messages, but once you have the messages there, it fills up the empty space. So you need to think about this in your assignment. Just do something a little bit different, not exactly what you see in this tutorial. So if I write, there you are, you have declared an invalid age. So the first message goes away because I have added something, but the second one is enabled now because it's not a number. So if I add now 150, I still get the error message. So now I have violated it for a different reason. If I go and say 55, which is a valid one, it goes away. Of course here, but confirmations, please. Remember, in the first part of the course, we saw that how to do it manually. This ASP's way to say, well, you don't need to worry about that. I'm giving you an automatic way. Thank you, guys and girls. Next one. Passwords. We have password. I'm not going to add a restriction on the password, although we should. Assignment, think about it. Maybe one character, at least one character, at least one number, at least one symbol. For me, I'm going to leave it open, but I'm going to come to confirm password and check it that whatever the user writes here should be the same with this one. So number one, I will convert this into a password field so that we don't see what we actually write, not now, later. And then here, whatever the user retypes needs to match the first one. If we were to write it using code, we're going to take some time to do it. So I'm going to use the compare validator. Drag and drop it under the confirm. First one is the error message. Passwords must match. There you are. I will convert this for color to blue. So I'm just going to say in blue. And the text asterisk and say the two passwords do not match. You are allowed to use whatever warning message you want. For the assignment, I'm not going to take out any points unless it doesn't make sense. If you say here you have to provide a password, then it's incorrect. We say that's the required field validator, not the compare validator. Control to validate, and now you'll see two. There is control to validate, which is what we want, and then control to compare. So you're getting an additional one. Control to validate is the confirm. So that's 1, 2, 3, that's number 4. And with which text field to compare it, text box to compare, that's number 3, the actual password. Let's see. Let's have a look. All right. So I'll first take away this so that there is no problem. All right. So password test confirm test 2. But the two passwords do not match. So you need to add exactly what you see in order for that error message to go away. Last one, student ID. For that, we're going to be setting up a rule that the student ID must start with a capital letter, a character, and then following up with 3 numbers, any numbers. That's true in your case. You have F or S, and then you start off your registration number, or maybe K, depending when you registered, fall, spring, or summer. And then there is a series of numbers. I think there are 8 of them. Now, let's not do 8. Just to quickly check it out, just add 3 of them. So 1 capital letter, any one, and then 3 numbers following up. In order to do that, we need to use the regular expression validator. Pick it up, throw it under the student ID. So first of all, let's do the error message. Student ID must start with a capital letter followed by 3 numbers. I'm going to pick green for this, although green, it's the color for good news. Usually for errors we use red. And then, just for the sake of the example, again, assignment, I'm not going to take away any points. This is not a design course, it's programming. Then for the text, student ID is invalid with an asterisk with an asterisk. A me navigo lo spesmo must. Now it's control to validate. We need to assign it to text box number 5. And if you go a little bit further down, you will find the validation expression. I want to point out that if I go to another validator, there is no validation expression. So the properties adjust, they change based on what type of a validator you're using. Here we had control to compare. Now we don't see control to compare. It adjusts based on the type. So validation expression, right? You know how to do that, right? So anybody can type in the chat what's the answer. Starting A to Z, capital letters 1, and then followed by 0 to 9, 3 of them. What is the regular expression we should be adding? I think we covered that in the first part of the course. No one? As I'm waiting for your answers, I want to point out that here you get a list that you can actually use, and it will generate, I say, a US phone number. This is the answer. You could say US zip code. This is the answer. So it's giving us the answers to some existing problems. But for Cyprus or any custom-made regular expression, you need to actually write it. Thank you, Panteli. 2 mistakes, a little bit. Να λεπτό να διορθώσω. Είναι the square bracket, A to Z capital όμως. Παντελή, βάλεις μας τα μικρά, a capital. And then curly bracket 1. Then there is no comma. If you add a comma, it means the user must include it. If you add a comma, a full stop, a space, an underscore, then the user must include it in order to accept it. So it goes, so square bracket 0-9, close the square bracket, curly bracket 3. Let me write it in the chat in case it's not shown clearly here. Thank you, Vandeline. Now, this is not accurate like 100%. Although it will work, I will reduce marks because ASP.NET, the official tutorials, is asking from us to help when it runs at the server here. They need some help to determine that this is now the validation expression. So what we need to do, you can do it here or on the properties. I think here it can be shown better. Before we start, you have to have the, I don't know what we call that, το καπελούι. And you know that to raise a number to the power of something, we use this. What's the official name, guys? The caret. It's called the caret. And at the end, you need to use the $sign. Right? So that's the official statement by ASP.NET tutorial. Tell us, use the caret at the start and the $sign at the end to indicate when we are running it at the server, run at server, that this is the start and the end of the validation expression. Again, it will work even without those, but it's not HTML5, it's ASP.NET. So I'm telling you, you will lose 1 point if you get to add the start and the end. Just because your browser supports it, it doesn't mean it will be supported by all browsers. So you need to respect that rule. All right, so I have it open already. I'm gonna refresh it and let's test it out. Εντάξει, τα έχω τα γεμάτα, so I don't need to refill them. Yep. So student ID A12. Bam. Oops. It's not complaining, is it? Or is it just me? Guys, is it working for you? It works for you, thank you. So it's something I made another. Have I assigned the correct text box? That's text box number 5.
Yeah, κάνετε το save.
And το κάμα save. Α, το δάμε. You're right. Ποιος μου απάντησε? Έλενα, εσύ? Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Yeah, that's correct. So A12, A123 still is not going to work because this needs to be a capital one. Bam, goes on. If you add something after, bam, still is invalid. So that's the regular expression validator. We can, of course, use it on the password, remember? And anywhere else we want. These are the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, but they're compulsory for your second part of the assignment. Definitely, you're going to be using it on a form because they have to be input types of components. I have demonstrated it with text boxes. It's the least you can do. Now you can show me different components or you can show me different quantity. But please, if you just repeat this in your scenario, I will give you points, but they're not going to be full points. I will have the comment, this is the example we saw in class. So try a little bit better. Maybe format a little bit their messages, combine them in a different way, add more fields, add more options, and think about adding other components. And also, there's the custom validator for the challenge if anybody wants to take it. All right, we have one more. Validation summary. Once we click register, it doesn't produce anything under the button. I want to demonstrate that. So I have all the error message now shown. I'm only getting the text of the text property. Please find the validation summary and drag it under the button. So number 1, let's adjust it a little bit. So let's talk about the colors. Find the 4 color. And let's say, να μπορεί να φαίνεται στην οθόνη τώρα. Πάμε orange. Orange. Ναι, Μάρι, και στο validation summary, we created some space under the button, not too much. Pick up the validation summary and drag it here. It will create this. And once you click on it, go to the settings, the properties, find the 4 color and select orange. Before we run it, header text says this is a list of your errors. It's going to add it on top of the bullet list. All right, let's run it and see. Don't forget to save. Refresh, and once again, produce the error messages. What do you see below the button now? Everything is good. I see nothing. If I take away this and just click register, bam, it adds a bullet point, says name is required. Anybody can tell me what is this value that I'm seeing here? Where did ASP.NET find this value? Who told it to print name is required? Very good. It's the property that I told you we will be seeing after. It's the property error message. It actually says it here. So as you are violating the rules here, it will be adding to the list. That's amazing. If you just fix one, it's going to take that away, but it's going to leave a bullet list of the existing error messages. This is the text of the text property. This is the text of the error message. It pretty much takes away from the responsibility that we have in order to produce this list, which we can do it using JavaScript or even jQuery. If you remember jQuery, append at the end of the list. If I ask you to do this, you're going to need 5 minutes and you will be able to do it. ASP.NET takes that away from you. It says, I will take care of the list. Just drag and drop the validation summary anywhere you want to, and bam, it updates dynamically. And look at that. If I take away the, let's say the number, it just removes it, but doesn't leave anything empty. It's very nice. There you are. It has added one at the top because it's the first one, but there is no empty between the validation error messages. No empty points. I have one more thing to show you, and that is the password, which I told you we should not be seeing what the user is typing in the password field. And in order to do that, click on the password field text box and come all the way here to text mode, the property text mode. If you drop this down, you will see that you get a number of options. One of them is password. Of course, we also need to do this for the confirm password field. By the way, color, date, email, month, number, range. So that's actually something we can relate with HTML5 input type components. For now, it should be password. Save it and refresh. We should now get a password later, which is more realistic. If I change this to text mode and say range, I now have a range component. If I change this into a color, You know what we have? We actually saw that in TSC 133, what we are writing the code there. There you are, a color palette. If you change this into date, you are getting a calendar widget. Pretty cool, huh? All this without having to do anything. Images, and el tornado, I think you have image, there you are. But do you mean to let the user add an image? What I have used is the URL. So the image is uploaded, let's say, on Google Drive. Then you pick up that image and you add it there, and then it generates the image. So if you want the user to upload, you need to look for it's a bitmap object. Search it up, Dean. Right, so let's switch it back to password, which is the case now. There you are. So, validation controls, everybody. Checklist. I have applied in file, and I'm looking for you to say the lines when you go to the source, because although we haven't written any code, this is the line here. Let's say, please do not mess up the lines as you have done in the first assignment. Not all of you, some of you. If you change it in different lines, then that's the lines that you need to provide, 53 to 57. Let me also remind you that we can actually double click on one, double click on the button, and we're going to be moving on to ASP.XCS, the behind the codes view, which we can write what will happen once the user clicks the button. This is not listed here, but for the button, you will lose marks if you do not implement functionality on the button. It is expected, not just design. Do we have any questions? Elena, you can use CSS, but you're not getting any points. 0 bonus points. jQuery, 0 bonus points, because that's not what I'm marking. Solana, can we see the two do not match again? Yes, of course. So this is the, there you are, the properties for the compare validator. And also, let me remind you, you don't have to use just one. You can use multiple or in different pages, in different forms. All right, everybody. That's all I have for you today. A simple one, a simple tutorial. If you manage to complete it, please proceed, zip it and upload it online on the submission box in order to get the participation weekly mark. If we have any problems, please stay behind so we can talk about it.